So first of all, I want to thank everyone for joining me today. It's been a pleasure having you over here. For the next 30 minutes, I'm going to tell you briefly about who we are at e-GMAT. What is it that we do? How are we different from a typical test prep company? And so it's about 15 minutes. I'm going to take about 15 to 18 minutes to talk about that aspect. And then we're going to talk about the respective positions. And then towards the end, we'll take a few questions that you have about either one of the positions. My goal here today is to make sure that you understand who we are and to be able to better evaluate whether e-GMAT's the right company for you, and also to give you clarity on our hiring process. Okay, so with that, let's go forward. All right. So just purely in terms of agenda, as I said, we're going to talk about the DNA of e-GMAT, we're going to talk about the positions and the selection process. So three things, fairly simple. I'm going to try and keep it to about 30 minutes or so. I have my colleagues Sandeep and Juhi who would be there in the session. They're both hiring managers for the respective position. Juhi is for the blog growth specialist. Sandeep is for the sales manager position. Okay. So let's start with who we are, because I think fundamentally, that is really critical for you to understand whether this is e-GMAT's the right fit for you. And when you think about the domain that we live in, we are in the test prep domain, and you know, but then that doesn't typically capture who we are in many ways, because we're not like a typical test prep company. Most test prep companies are service companies where they essentially sell live lessons. Many of them actually sell online lessons as well, but they are primarily recorded live lessons or so. In many ways, most test prep companies are what we call as service companies. And at e-GMAT, when we started e-GMAT, we wanted this to be a product company which is backed by excellent service. But product first, service next. And our goal really was to make sure that that we offer courses that help our students achieve their target GMAT scores in a predictable way. In many ways, you know, GMAT was just one of the vehicles that we chose because we knew the test, but our goal was to create a mechanism for effective learning. Okay, and just to really tell you how are we different from a typical test prep company, you know, we're going to talk about the various components of the e-GMAT course and how they enable students to achieve their success. Okay, so let's start with how a regular test prep company works. As I said, a regular test prep company, when you go there, you buy a course, it'll give you lessons, it'll give you some practice questions. And as you get those practice, as you go through those lessons, you solve those practice questions, you then go take mock tests. And your hope really is that you do well enough in the lessons, you understand the lessons well enough, such that you perform really well on the mock tests. Now, some people do get there. They kind of get close to their target score and they continue taking mocks and they succeed. But then there are many folks who actually deviate while going through the lessons or while practicing questions and end up far away from their mock scores. Some people actually fail to progress even further. They fail to complete the course and go directly on to taking mocks. I'm sure if you guys have ever prepared for a competitive exam, that has happened with you as well. In many ways, you know, what a regular test prep company does is it tells you some sort of a course direction as to how you need to go about to achieve your target score, but it doesn't course correct your journey while you're going through that process. It doesn't track doesn't do a lot to track your progress during that journey. And essentially, many people who go through a regular test prep land far away from their target scores. At e-GMAT, we wanted to change that, and we wanted to provide what we call as predictable success. And this is where you'd really see how we are different from most of our competitors out there. In fact, if you were to compare e-GMAT in terms of our learning pedagogy to folks in the test prep domain in general, you'll find the differences are very common, even when you look at companies in the CAT space, in the GRE space, in fact, even in the JEE preparation space as well. Okay, so one of the most important DNAs of e-GMAT was, or rather goals of e-GMAT as a product, was to create something which leads to predictable success, which means regardless of what your starting point is, whether you're strong in quant or verbal, whether you're someone who's just 30 points or 300 points away from your target GMAT score. Our goal was to be able to make sure, put you on a path so that you hit the bullseye every time you do that, as long as you're hitting the metrics that we provide to you along the path. And when you deviate from those metrics, our goal was to make sure that you know that you're deviating and we provide a correction path to you. Okay. So, which meant that every piece of learning that we design is tracked, which means even when we have video lessons, they have a long adjoining tracking abilities where they measure how effectively you've learned the content of the video. So you get feedback every 30 minutes of your learning. Okay. If you don't perform as well, which means if the system indicates you've not learned as well, you get feedback as to correct that right then and there so that you stay on that path towards hitting that bullseye. And this is something which is really important, because when you think about an arrow going towards its path, the sooner you course correct, the higher is the likelihood that that arrow is going to hit that path. So how much data do we collect? For every student, we collect upwards of 25,000 data points. And those 25,000 data points are then put into logical buckets, and we give you 500 personalized points of feedback. And that is critical because that feedback helps you course correct. Okay. Now, because of this, and because we have these metrics defined all along the path, these considerable metrics, 90% of folks who hit our internal metrics see their ace the GMAT. They're very close. They get very close to their target score. So it cuts one way in that way, but it also cuts the other way, where 99% of those who don't hit our internal metrics, they don't hit their target GMAT score, and so it's predictable either way. Okay. So that kind of tells you in many ways the product aspect of it. Now, I'm going to now talk about the people who've created this product, as well as the components that deliver this product. Okay. It all starts with people who design the methods, because in the end, you're still a test prep company, you're still doing content. That's really important. And one of the core things that we focus on is creating methods that help you build your core abilities. At e-GMAT, one thing you would not hear any subject matter expert say is the word shortcut. Why? Because we don't believe shortcuts work in test prep. We believe that you do well, especially if you're aiming for the top 3, top 4, top 2, or top 1 percentile. You do well when you build your core abilities. And that's something that starts with our core SMEs. Then we have a success business unit where you have subject matter experts, we have GMAT strategy experts, and we have our core support team, as well as in some ways our program management team. Then we have, think about it, we are about a 44-45% company, and about 11 of us work in tech and testing. And this kind of shows you the focus of the product. These are people who design the tech behind everything. And having such a team gives us immense flexibility. Why? Because when things change, we can adapt to those changes faster. For those of you who know a bit about the GMAT, there's a new version of the GMAT coming, and because we have the tech prowess that we do, we are able to adapt to this way before most prep companies are. When it comes to building AI, when it comes to building deep analytics, these are people who go about figuring out what's the latest and greatest in tech, and essentially go and build that, and allows us to deliver capabilities which about 3-4 years ago only you needed a human presence to do that. Okay. Now, what have we achieved you build a product, but in the end, you're a test prep company, like a race car, that's measured by its ability to win races. A test prep company is measured by its ability to deliver success. And when you think about it, till date, or since 2020, we've reported 3 out of 5 700+ scores. So if you go to GMAT Club, look at the review sections, count the number of 700+ scores, and you look at that delivered by every other partner, what you're going to recognize is that we've delivered 60% of all 700 or higher scores. The remaining 40% are delivered by all of these other folks out there. Okay, and this is kind of where when you have a product that works like a private tutor, you deliver that and you back it with excellent service. Okay. Just in 2022, if you were to look at our comparison, because essentially a lot of people say, hey, you're older. So, yes, no matter, there's no wonder that you have more reviews. But just if you look at the span of 2022 and you compare e-GMAT against Indian test prep companies, I can put a couple of more over here. The number's going to remain very, very similar. We delivered 87% of all 700 plus scores. Again, these are Indian test prep companies. When you look at global test prep companies, and this has about 10 or so partners. We delivered about 62% of all success. Of course, the logos over here belong to the respective companies. So what's next for us? In many ways, we've been in the business for about a decade, but in many ways, it's day zero for us, just because of the way we look at the landscape that's available for us. We're still just in the GMAT space, and there are other spaces that we are in. The other thing is what we see possible with technology. Deep learning and AI is something that's very exciting for us. But 2 years ago, we had this vision to be more effective than a private tutor, and we're about 70% there. I think with regards to what we've seen happen over the last year and a half in deep learning, I believe we can be way more effective, not just more effective, but way more effective than a private tutor at a price of, or rather, but twice the price of the best books out there. Okay, so one of the key focus areas that we have in 2023 is essentially to make sure that we double our success rate and we adapt ourselves to the new test. Now, with regards to the change in tech, our excitement is such that Pyle and I, we are based out of Phoenix, Arizona. In about a month and a half, we are moving to India so that we work more closely with the team overall, because we can see the possibilities that it entails. One of the other things that we see ourselves doing in the near future is moving to other tests, starting with the GRE and then the SAT, ACT, and so on and so forth. And I think the beauty of this is we've built this learning architecture that spans across tests and even across domains overall. If you want to excel in any area, this is the learning architecture that you want to be on. Okay, so just in terms of how the company is organized, and this is something where you can take away. So we have 3 founders. We have the Department of COO that also manages a program management team. And then when you look at this, you have subject matter experts, customer success experts, student support with regards to the GMAT strategy. A lot of the design aspect goes into either e-learning or the design team. This is where the operations go in with regards to products. We have an SEO team, a marketing team, a tech team, and a sales team. Now, one thing that you really see, and when I say we're truly a product company, what you really see is marketing plus sales is about 4 people here. Program management is about 5. Tech is about 10. So the comparative focus on sales plus marketing compared to the rest of the team, you can really see the product DNA. Now, if you were to compare this to an academy, Byju's, what you're going to find is that sales plus marketing is about 60 to 70% of the company. The rest of the teams are about 30-35% of the company overall. So again, very different focus, very different DNA. Now, this doesn't mean that sales and marketing or SEO people are not as valuable. It's just the very fact that we're very selective about who we hire and want to make sure that people who are there are able to deliver on the promise of e-GMAT. They can communicate the product, they can communicate the benefits of the technology, underlying technology behind the product. Okay. So again, I talked about these pieces over here. Yeah, I think the design piece. We have 4 people who just do design. They build our graphics, they build our UI, they actually build essentially deliver the charting capabilities and so on and so forth. Okay. In terms of some of the capabilities that we have, we we have our own LMS. And this is, I think, very, very critical. When you look at most of our competitors, they actually rent an LMS from a standard LMS company. Creating our learning management system was core to us, which is where we developed every element of it from scratch. Okay. For those of you who are inquisitive about it, take a look at our free trial. You can really see some of the capabilities that we have in our learning management system. This is the core of providing 500 feedback points. On top of this, we have what we call as a personalized adaptive course engine, or a PACE engine. What this does is, actually, when you think about it, thousands of people take the GMAT, or tens of thousands of people take the GMAT every year. Each one of these individuals has different strengths, different weaknesses. Essentially, in many ways, they have different needs. Now, if you think about just a very simple aspect, quant on the about 500 odd concepts that are tested on quant, and not just at a conceptual level, but also at an application level. And if you were to think about the most efficient way to enable people to succeed in quant, you want to make sure you understand their natural strengths, what they already know, you understand their weaknesses, and build a custom course that allows people to navigate through the concepts that they need to either learn and cement, or just cement. And that's what PACE does. It creates personalized courses for you. In fact, till date, it has created upwards of 1,000 courses from the repository of our quant learning material. Okay. Quizzing platform. So we have the world's best quizzing platform. And when I say a quizzing platform, most people, when they think about a quizzing platform, they think about something which has the ability to deliver quizzes and flexibility to choose different kinds of questions. And yes, we do that. But then truly a job of a quizzing platform is a lot more. It's not just to tell you, not just to deliver questions to you, it's also to track how well you've done in various areas. That's what we call as level 1 analytics and quizzing. But then if you want to figure out, hey, in algebra, with regards to inequalities, have you improved over the last 3 months or so, or even 3 weeks? Our quizzing platform allows you to do that. It allows you to bucketize your accuracy by difficulty, by topic, so that you can track your improvement, whether you're going up or going down. Another thing that a quizzing platform is supposed to do is to tell you how predictable is your success. So you take a quiz, you take a 10-question quiz, you get 8 out of those 10 questions correct. And then you're really happy. 80% accuracy is pretty decent. But then the question really is, is it repeatable? Did you get lucky? Did you rush through certain questions? Or let's say instead of 8, get only 5 correct. Were you impacted? Was that attempt impacted by a timing? These things, we have an AI engine called Expert that detects this. How does it do it? It compares your attempt to the attempts of tens of thousands of people who've taken the same set of questions, maybe in a different combination. So it extrapolates from there, and it tells you, how lucky did you get, which means their success isn't replicable. Did you have near misses, which means these are questions based on your prior history. You should have done them correctly, but you faltered on this. So these are what we call as costly misses for you, because you had the capability to do this. So make sure you don't repeat those mistakes. In many ways, this is also the same bucket as careless mistakes. But then this is something that that a piece of technology does. And this is where, when you think about developing capabilities that go beyond that of a private tutor, these are the kind of capabilities you want to develop. In terms of content, we've created upwards of 10,000 questions. These 10,000 questions have been consumed, I would say, upwards of 1 million times overall with regards to our learning content. That has been consumed upwards of 500 million minutes or so. And we talked about a design team that can create learning content, web pages, and of course, marketing videos and creatives. Okay, so I was, about 20 minutes into the webinar, or 19 and a half minutes. And this was hopefully a brief overview of e-GMAT. Hopefully that tells you who we are, what is it that we focus on. Now we'll talk about the 2 roles that we have over here. Before that, I think things that we value in individuals. I think one of the big things that we look for when we think about individuals is your ability to essentially figure out when things are not working right. Now, in a product company, you do a lot of new things. And when you do a lot of new things are not always hunky-dory. Why? Because that's kind of the very nature of doing something new. You are going to break something. And which is where, we value individuals who figure out that something's broken in our process. And the beauty of the e-GMAT system is everything that we do is tagged, everything that we do, there's data collected on it. And so you recognize a problem by looking at data or by looking at anecdotal interactions with customers, and you take measures without someone telling you, hey, you should do this. So you propose something and then you really say, hey, this is a problem that needs to be fixed. Okay, that's something that we value. The other thing that we value is to really say, okay, when you've been given a problem, so when a problem is identified, whether you do it or whether someone else does it, can you break it down into a sort of logical problems where each one of these can itself be tackled? Okay. And that's something which is just really important. Why? Because by itself, most problems seem very daunting. But once you break it down into logical steps, you're creating a path towards a solution where each step has its own measurable success. Okay. Can you impart that knowledge to other people and motivate them to a degree where essentially you kind of push them towards getting out of their comfort zone, which is where pushing the envelope is really important. And then once a process is defined for you, can you focus on executing it efficiently? And can you focus on hitting the metrics and in fact exceeding the metrics? Okay. And at e-GMAT, everyone gets access to all of the data. When you think about these behaviors, when you think about someone going through a project, everyone sees which projects are happening, and if they want, they can access. They pretty much can look at our financials and figure out how many customers we had, how many questions we created in a certain term, how much success we've had, because it's all there. Okay. Now, with regards to the position of sales manager, this again is something which is a very critical position for e-GMAT. Why? Because most of our customers have gone through a traditional test prep process where they really say someone's selling you videos and then questions, and then essentially I'm going to go through that and pretty much do everything on my own. So the job of this person is to communicate the e-GMAT difference to essentially a prospect. Now at e-GMAT, we do not cold call. People schedule, people write to us, people schedule meetings with us, and essentially we only talk to those individuals who want to talk to us. So one of those things that I want to make sure that very clearly is you're not going to get an email list where you'll have to send blind emails or you'll have to cold call. That's not the work that we do. And because a lot of the work that you do is with people who are willing to talk to you, our conversion rate is very high. So typically the conversion rate from sales is upwards of 50% for us. Okay. So what are your primary responsibilities? I think for you, it is to make sure that you communicate the e-GMAT difference, and there are two channels for you through which you do. One is through emails, and the second is through Zoom calls. Off late, we've started doing WhatsApp calls as well. So that's something that's a third channel as well. But I think regardless of the channel that you use, it's really important that you understand the needs of the student and you translate those needs into that particular student's journey through the e-GMAT platform. And you're able to do it in a convincing way. And that convincing way is not only face-to-face the way we are doing it, but also to create videos which people can watch at their own leisure, and because many a times you'd find that your client is working in a different time zone as you are in, and we don't want you to stay up at 2 a.m. your time to be on a call with the client. If that's the case, if your client is in a completely different time zone, then it's really important that you record videos, share those with the client, and you have that ability to communicate asynchronously, communicate effectively asynchronously. Okay. The second thing that you would do is essentially make sure that as you graduate, that you hold strategy sessions. Sometimes you do them in conjunction with partners. At other times, you do it just as office hours or so. Okay. And then the third thing that you do is you improve processes. So as you get better and better, you find, okay, there are ways to upskill yourself. There are new products that e-GMAT that we've created, the core product team has created. Let's kind of upskill ourselves. Let's see how does it change the way we communicate with our clients. Okay. For example, a year and a half, 2 years ago, we didn't have Loom, so we did not record as many videos with regards to communicating with our clients. Now, I think about a third of all our communication is done through videos recorded by folks in sales. Okay. And in terms of the growth, you can go in the sales domain, and then from there, someone who does really, really well in sales, someone who's proven to be methodical, can move towards the product domain as well. Okay. With that, I'm going to talk about this position, block growth strategist, and one of the first things I want to talk about this is that this is a fairly interesting position in the world of ChatGPT. I think if there's one position that has changed tremendously, is this position. Why? Because our prediction is that in this world, there's going to be a ton of written content that's created just because of the ease of writing content. And at e-GMAT, we have a blog which gets us about 400,000 visits a month, and our goal really is to essentially increase that to about 1 million visits a month or so. So what's your job? I think the job of our blog is to make sure that we support our client before they enter the e-GMAT ecosystem, which means when they're researching for the GMAT, researching for the B schools, and also support them during the e-GMAT ecosystem. And also, once they go out and want to get their GMAT score, they're looking to apply to business schools, we also want to support them. There are clients till they get into a B school. That's kind of what our opinion is. At least that's how we think about them. And that's why our clients are really passionate about e-GMAT. When you go to a YouTube channel, you're going to see way more success story videos on e-GMAT's YouTube channel than anywhere else in the world. Okay. So in many ways, your job is to create content, but create impactful content. And that impactful aspect is something that in the world of ChatGPT has changed, where your job has evolved from creating content to creating interactive content that the client can understand with ease. So a typical time spent on the blog is about 2.5, 3 minutes, and you have about 30 seconds to really convince the client to spend more time on our blog. So how do you make the most of those 30 seconds? And then after that, the remaining 2 minutes, how do you build that trust with our prospects as that they believe e-GMAT has something of value? That's one piece. The second piece is, how do you grow? I mean, you have to go from 400,000 to 1 million visits a month. Where does that growth come from? How do you strategize that growth, and how do you achieve that in a predictable fashion? That's something that's really important. Okay. Some of that strategizing is where you do keyword gap analysis. A lot of others is to really just say, okay, how do I improve my retention on the blog? How do I make whatever I have that's garnering traffic more interesting? Okay. Then how do I communicate the need where essentially once I've communicated the effectiveness of e-GMAT strategies, how do I then translate that into where people want to try out the e-GMAT platform because we have such a comprehensive free trial, or speak with one of our salespeople or our growth strategists. Okay. And again, in all of this, there are things that you would do. And the thing about doing new things is half the time when you do new things, they're not going to work. The other half they would. So your ability to adapt from the data based on the data and do a lot more of what's working and kind of reject what's not working is something that we truly measure and appreciate. Okay. Now, with regards to our hiring process, our hiring is very democratic, where it's very heavily dependent on assessments. So we do a set of assessments and we do a set of interviews, and then from that point, we give you a background check and offer. But your stage gate, the most important stage gate, is assessments. Okay. We actually look at your resume only at the interview stage. So when I say democratic, your background, what you've done before, starts to matter only with regards to interviews. Okay. For sales manager, most of you should have your first assignment itself. It's a video cover letter. Then you have an essay writing assignment that we will have, and that will be there followed with interviews after this. Okay. For the blog growth strategist, you will have a video cover letter. You'll have then a case study based assignment where we'll evaluate your ability to strategize how to write and how to write, keeping the reader in mind and the reader's needs in mind. And from there on, we'll have a set of interviews to make sure that your methodology, the way you go about approaching a problem statement, that is correct. Now, with regards to timeline, you manage this timeline, and it could be as short as this, where this is Thursday evening. Most of you have your assignments. If you don't, you can let us know, and then from that point on, you can submit the assignment by the weekend. You'd hear from us with regards to the second assignment if needed. Post that within a few days. You can submit that, and then you can have interviews after this. So within 2 weeks from this point, it's possible that you may get a job offer, provided you're aggressive about it. Okay. With that, I think that is pretty much everything that I have. Questions? You can put your question in the Q&A pod if you have. All right. Any salary brackets? Actually, they're all on the JD, Rahul, for the sales manager role. So both the positions should have salary brackets there. Is this a complete work from home opportunity? Yes, as of yet it is. Yes. We have, and just in a question. So we have about 1/3 of the company is located in Bangalore. The other 1/3 is in the NCR area, and the remaining 1/3 is pretty much spread all across. We kind of meet within our teams every quarter, and then we have larger meets less frequently, once a year or so. Let's look at other questions. Applied for the position of blog growth strategist. Do I need to perform the task of content writer? Absolutely, yes. Yes. So yes, everyone who works on the blog writes content, and not just content. You also create interactive elements. So the SEO part of it is essentially the relatively easy part. The strategizing piece, the tracking piece, the creating impressive content piece is the more challenging part that's there. Let me just say this, and this is just to give you a flavor. A typical blog post has a CTR, which means when a person comes on the blog and goes to the product side of about 1 to 2%. From our blog, we are looking at a CTR of about 15%. Okay. So yes, you have to be a researcher in terms of researching content. You have, and that research could happen both in terms of secondary research, where you see what others have written about a topic, draw inferences, as well as internally talking to stakeholders. Job timings and pay structure. Job timings are your regular job timings. Your 96 pay structure is there on the JD. When can you get the case study assignment? So Sandeep and Juhi, I think the assignment should be there. Do you want to answer this question?
For sales, it will go on Friday. So we're just giving time to.
Let me just put my headphones on. Yes, say that again.
Assignment 2 will go on Friday.
Okay, so assignment 1's already there. The video cover letter is already there, and then assignment 2 is going to go on Friday.
Yes.
Yes. Do the essay assignments happen every weekend? They actually are asynchronous, so you don't have to wait just for the weekend for those to happen. Okay. Guys, salary things there in the JD. It's a range between, I think, 8. So Sandeep, do you remember the salary piece for
sales? It is 7 to 12.
7 to 12, yes. But yeah, that's the base piece. Will the job profile be completely work from home, or will it become hybrid anytime soon? We don't expect it to become hybrid in the next 12 months. So, but again, at the same time, what this also means is that you've got to be effective while working from home. You've got to have an environment in your house where you're not being bothered. That's something that's really critical. Is the sales manager an individual role? It is an individual role. It's not a team role. This is an individual contributor. You work with a team, but you would be an individual contributor. It's a beginning role. Juhi, if you could take Anoop's question, which is how is the content team placed? Again, I don't know the context of that question. So Anoop, if you could clarify that, that'd be good. The assignment topics, if they haven't been delivered to you, they'll be there soon. Are we also hiring for backend operations? We might hire for backend operations in the near future. As of now, we are not hiring for backend operations. Soumya's question is, what as an interviewer do you expect from a video cover letter? So I think the video cover letter is different positions have different video cover letters. Essentially, we want to figure out who you are, what have you achieved in life, and what's been your thought process when it comes to the video cover letter or problem solving. So both cover letters are, when you think about it in many ways, look at what you've done with regards to solving problems in your life, whether they're professional or personal, and how you've gone about them. So that's what we expect. A lot of the communication that happens at e-GMAT happens asynchronously. Yes, we all work in the same time zone, but then not everyone's available with regards to working. There are times when I'm working, but I'm in the do not disturb mode, and if you haven't scheduled a meeting with me, you'd probably not get to be on my calendar right then and there. So the ability to communicate asynchronously and communicate asynchronously effectively is something that we look at, and the ability to solve problems is what we look at, and that's where the video cover letter is such an important aspect of hiring. Since how long have we been in business? We started this in 2010, so I think you can do the math. If you're in your final semester, as long as you can spend the time with us, yes, you can apply. How many vacancies are there? For either of the positions, there are about at least two vacancies each overall. Okay, how much weight do we offer, do we put? I think when asked to explain the decision-making process of recruiting for this role, between the ability and the probability of ability. I think for us, we look at certainty with regards to really just saying, hey, you might have the ability versus how certain we are. And then based on that, it's not just one evaluation, there are multiple evaluations where we look at your problem solving abilities. And even during interviews, we evaluate those. So it's not just one assessment. So it's a cumulative set of stuff. I have some questions such as, okay, what is the price of your product? What are the salary? These are things, guys, which are on the website. You guys can see those. We provide everything to you. So there was a question, but do we have to use our own laptop and blah, 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 blah. But no, you get a company-driven laptop. You actually get access to a ton of tools. Not just that, you get mind maps. Of course, you get an Office 365 account. So you get Teams and everything. In addition to that, you also get access to training. So one of the first things that happens with any individual is you go through an internal set of trainings for about 12 to 14 days, at least before you start working. Is a blog growth strategist good for people with a creative background? As long as you have the skills, yes. I mean, as I said, we don't look at your resume, we don't look at your background till essentially you get to stage 2. And if you've done a great job in stage 1, then that background doesn't matter. Do we have sessions for candidates, like giving them strategic advice to score more? Yes, we do. We hold 2 live sessions every weekend. I think the training one I've already answered. Yes, there will be. For creating a video cover letter, is creating a video using apps like InShot allowed? Absolutely. You can use whatever you want to use. Again, for us, that's what we call as a bit of extra credit if you want there, but the core piece is going to be the content of your video. Juhi and Sandeep, if you can turn your videos on, that'd be good. Do we also have an hybrid model where we do live sessions? Actually, we tried doing those, and our self-paced videos, or what we call as AI-driven lessons, are just so effective. Many people don't want to come for those. So unfortunately, yes, we do want to do that. We have the team to do it. It's just that, yeah. Just 1 second. I want to make sure that I'm able to allow Sandeep to share his video. All right. Video cover letter on the 6th. You've not heard anything, Sandeep, for sales. When are we going to
tomorrow?
get
it's all reviewed. Tomorrow, people would be receiving assignment 2.
Okay. And those who are not selected, they'll be receiving the same thing as well tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So Ankur, thank you for the question. You will receive everything. Surbi has a question. What tools? So I think it's does the blog strategist need to know?
Yeah. So with respect to SEO skills and tools, you would be given the necessary training if you are selected. However, it would be handy if you have background knowledge or working knowledge about tools such as WordPress or SEMrush, right? SimilarWeb, and you have a good knowledge about Google Analytics or Mixpanel. It's going to help you. But even if you don't know, and if you are selected in the process, you'll be given the necessary training for the tools.
I think the piece which is really important is when it comes to tools, the tools part is an easy part. Even if you don't know those, we can train you. What's very difficult to train someone on is a thought process. What's very difficult to train someone on is essentially your core work ethics, and so that's something that we value more. Tools are this. Neha says, is it 5 days working? Yes and no. So in terms of this, you have your everyone has their goals. So in sales and in blog and SMEs. So yes, technically it's 5 days working, but then when you want to meet your goals, you work on the 6th day as well. In some cases where you're doing operation stuff, if you work on the 6th day, you get paid overtime. In others, it's project based, so you get a bonus, and then of the bonus right up front. So when you think about the salary, it's not just salary; it's also project based bonus that you get. If you hit your numbers, the bonus is paid out every month. Our strategy team, for example, has a bonus based on the amount of success that they deliver. Okay, and that's paid out every month. Okay. In sales, you do have to work 1 day on the weekend. It's just the nature. Our clients are more available, and accordingly, if you want to take a day off during the week, that's absolutely okay. What are the other benefits that we're looking at as an employee if you get hired? I think in terms of you as an employee, regardless of the position that you are in, you will get the freedom to essentially explore new things and the ability to pitch those new things to the founders of the company. So that's one of the biggest things. When you work in a typical company, you either have founders who are very conservative in their thinking, or you have a hierarchy where you have to go through multiple layers to really talk to the founders. One of the most important things I think that you'd say that I believe that sets e-GMAT apart is the freedom that we give you to make decisions, as long as those are not irreversible decisions. Also, when you make decisions, you get the option, or you track everything. So there's an unambiguous way to figure out whether the decision that you took worked or not. And I think that probably is one of the biggest benefits. There are people who worked at e-GMAT and have gone from here to become product managers, who worked in our operations and have gone from here to work as product managers in other places. Because the kind of analytics, the kind of product thinking that we have, just even our operations guys are way better than many of the product managers that you would find. The other benefit is you get to work across teams. I mean, in sales and in blog, you get to work with the subject matter team, the SME team. You actually get to work with the program management team overall. And that, I think, is one of the bigger benefits. Of course, learning tools is there. That's, I think, as I said, learning tools is a lot of people put a lot of weight on tools at e-GMAT. We believe it takes about a month to learn any tool to a degree where it can help improve your work processes significantly. So I think the working piece, we've already done that. Yes, all the assignments that have been submitted, you're going to get a response by tomorrow. My alma mater. So you can actually look it up on LinkedIn if you've not connected with me. So I am my bachelor's from RIC Calicut, did my master's from IIT Delhi, then worked at Nokia as a researcher for about 4 years. When you think about the kind of tech that came in cell phones in 2012, 2013, I researched and worked on that in the year 2000. I'm still a researcher overall. And then I did my MBA from a college called Babson College. It's the world's #1 school on entrepreneurship. Then I built businesses at Honeywell, and then for the last 11 years, that's when we founded e-GMAT, and I've been working there. Similarly, Payal, who's an undergrad from BITS Pilani, and she's worked at Honeywell Space Systems. As a part of that, she's worked on projects with NASA, and for the last 11 years, she's been working on e-GMAT as well. What will be your targets? Your targets would vary, month to month, depend on macro. But for most salespeople, they'll have a certain number of customers target between 40 and 60 a month. And for the blog, they'll have their own growth targets, and just also the domains where that growth's going to come from. Okay. In the last 3 years, that's a great question. What is the decision that you'd like to have a second look, if any? That's a great question. I think there are many, not just one. If there were one decision that I would look at and have a second look is essentially I would have moved to India a lot sooner. I would say, I mean, we had we have an incredible team that can benefit a lot with Payal and I'm moving to India. Another decision is, I would sleep slightly more. For the last 4 years, till about a year and a half back, I wasn't sleeping as much. So I'd sleep slightly more. I think that's there. And then third thing that I'd like to do just is to do more company retreats. That's something that I would say. Fixed versus variable for a sales manager. Typically, it's about 20% is variable. Soumya says, what's e-GMAT's ultimate vision? Okay, that's a difficult question. Let me just be very clear. It's a difficult question, and Payal and I ask ourselves this question every day. So, and because it's evolved. When we started this company, our vision was to be more effective than a live classroom. This was 2010. 2018, 2019, as we built more capability. And remember this, we started this company with as 2 individuals with $10,000 in investment. We weren't a company the way we are right now. In 2018, 2019, our vision was to be more effective than a private tutor in essentially the GMAT space. 2022, we wanted to expand that to pretty much every other test that is out there. 2023, as we've seen the advent of technology, we want to be way more effective than a private tutor, number one. But number two is we also want to enable access to our technology for other individuals where for other companies where they can make use of this learning methodology. Because I believe the way AI, and more specifically the deep learning side of AI with regards to neural networks, has been growing, all of us, if we are to give ourselves a livelihood, will need to be a lot more smarter than we are today, and a lot more competent with regards to leveraging tools that we have. About 3-4 years ago, when we talked about Elon Musk's Neuralink, where you're going to put a chip in the brain, it felt like an exotic thing. The more I learn about how these neural networks work and learn about the capabilities that are happening in this space, the more I think it's going to be a necessity. But then even when you have that capability, you've got to know how to use it if we have to proceed, and if a majority of the human race has to get a sustainable living. So it's morphing into that, I believe. I spend about 30% of my non-work time thinking about this. Let me just say this. How many people on the sales team? So a sales team is about two people. You saw that right now. It was about 4 to 5 people at its peak. Our goal is to make it back to 4.5 people. About 70% of our customers, Sandeep, right? They come directly without even talking to a salesperson, and it accounts for about 30% of our sales today, our sales team. So 70% of our students actually don't even write to us. They don't even talk to us. They just buy the product. Rishabh says, are you looking for higher positions under marketing? Rishabh, not right now, but in a couple of months, we may be looking for other positions. As I said, once Pyle and I move to India, we're going to look at the next set of growth. Is e-GMAT planning to become a unicorn or doing an IPO? Actually, doing an IPO is one of the last things that's there on my mind. At e-GMAT, I hate overhead. In fact, if you go look at reviews and Glassdoor, one of the things that you really see is we don't have an HR person, and that's true. We don't have one because we pretty much manage it ourselves. It's just an overhead. We hired a couple of HR people in the past. It's just they didn't have a whole lot to do. They probably did 4 hours of work a month, and then when you have someone like that, it just weighs down the culture of the entire team. So are we looking to do an IPO? No, it's just yeah. SME subject matter experts or verbal or quant experts. How much is the market for online versus offline? As an ed tech, do you see the online market expanding further and eating out the offline? We rarely see that. I think the way I would think about it is that when you think about Zomato, Swiggy, right? When you think about eating food outside versus ordering in, yes, there is a value of eating food outside. You go to the restaurant, you have the ambiance that's out there, and when it comes to the weekend, a lot of people still do that. But then most people actually, when it comes to the overall volume of food ordered, food ordering is still a much bigger volume than people going and eating into restaurants. And the reason for that is when you're ordering food, you can order food from places where you can't go, when you can't go to. And this is just about food. I mean, you can make food at home as well. It's not as critical as test prep. When it comes to test prep, you're looking for the best prep out there. You're looking to succeed. It's a career decision that you're going to make. And it's my strongest belief that if you offer the best value, and when it comes to value, there's the benefit piece, which is score improvement, and the cost with it, that not just what you're charging the client, but the cost that the client has to pay with regards to the time, the convenience, that's there. Online test prep provides way better value than offline does. Now, the only benefit that offline has is that when you go to a center, you are forced to spend that time. So for people who are motivated, for people who truly want to do something, I think online is going to still eat offline share. For individuals who just want to get to a bare minimum, that's where offline is going to be prevalent, which is where the tuition centers are going to be prevalent. But where you're looking to excel, that's where online is there. I mean, the parallel that I would really say is there's a reason why you still see a Ferrari where you in the car space, and you don't see a Hyundai or a Honda in the same degree. In the consumer space, see a Hyundai, a Honda, a Toyota to a great degree. Why? Because there, all you're looking for is going from point A to point B, which is what your tuition centers are. But when it comes to racing, you need that specialized piece. Okay. What do I think has gone wrong with Unacademy Byju's, but are now scaling back? I think product. Simple, lack of product. If I were to say, there's one thing that's off. Just again, and you can see this with the company composition overall. It's the product that sells in the end, and not essentially your sales push. So yeah. I mean, when you think about Unacademy, they have, I mean, in terms of the opportunity they have in front of them, it's a huge opportunity with regards to the market reach that they have. It's huge, but then just the market reach is not enough. You also have to have a compelling enough offer to sell the product. So, all right, guys. With that, I want to thank everyone for joining me today. If there are other questions, you can reach out to either me or Juhi or Sandeep. You can connect with us on our LinkedIn, and we'd be happy to answer those questions. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Juhi or Sandeep, do you guys want to add anything?
You pretty much covered everything, Rajat. And also the question round Q&A round was excellent because people asked almost every question that could have helped them. So yeah.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, guys, and good luck for the assignments. We'll look forward to receiving your assignments.